All right, we are recording. This next feature is something that I am very excited about indeed. Custom NPC attacks. This allows the user to create their own bosses, as I have done with this boss, which is a collection of diamonds, pink diamonds. Obviously, there was a little inspiration from Steven Universe there. And this particular enemy is called Carbon Copier. It's got very simple movement. It moves up and down. And there's actually two different types of attacks. Let me show you. Attacks are something that appears within behaviors. Just about everything in a custom NPC happens inside a behavior, and it's actually under the Combat tab. Eventually, I want to have things like elemental immunities, elemental resistances, that kind of thing. But for now, the only thing that's really on this Combat tab is attacks. And there's two different types of attacks, or I should say two different types of sub-attacks. There are fireballs, and there's a straight line lightning attack called Thunder Ray. And this icon over here on the left tells you whether the attack happens randomly, whether it happens periodically, whether it happens as soon as the NPC enters the behavior, which is this one, or whether it happens upon receiving a particular message. This 20-sided die here, this green die, that is meant to be random. The exclamation mark with an enter next to it, that is as soon as you enter the attack. When you create a new attack, then it doesn't have any sub-attacks in it yet. I'm going to call this one Periodic Lightning, if I can spell it correctly. And there are at this point only two types of sub-attacks. There's Fireball and Thunder Ray. I'm just going to go with Thunder Ray here. And this is an enhancement which also is there for hurt zones. If you remember hurt zones, then you remember that you can pick a range of colors, and anywhere in that range is where the lightning bolt will appear. Now, in order to set up a Thunder Ray sub-attack, you need, let's see, spawn point X, spawn point Y. I think I want 20 across and 0 up. I think that's going to put it about at this eye here. On second thought, let me do the left eye. I don't have much firing out of there. Lead time, that's how much time the lightning bolts will spark before they actually fire. The duration, if you want it to be firing continuously, then you use 0. If you want it to last, say, 1.5 seconds, you go with 1500. This is in milliseconds, so 2-second lead time, 1.5 second duration. The damage should be 1. And I will show you what the bolt count is. That's the number of lightning bolts drawn per frame. You can have quite a few. I'm just going to do 1 for now. Ray width says how many pixels across the lightning bolt is going to be. That is used both in collision detection and in drawing. If you have a width of 0, then it's just going to be a straight laser ray. I think that at this point I have enough. Yep. That's just a straight laser that goes down. You can use this for lasers that are 1 pixel across, but why would you want to? Let's see. Let me try giving it a ray width of 44. Now you can see it is zigging and zagging all over the place, but it's really thin, and it feels like it's just not that substantial. Let's take the bolt count up to 2. Now it draws 2 lines, or 2 lightning bolts every time it fires. But as you can see, each of those 2 bolts has a different color. You know, maybe that's okay, but if we want it to look a little bit more cohesive, we can check this common color one. And when it draws those 2 bolts, they will have the same color. Let me just make the ray width something ridiculous here. That is some huge lightning there. But with just 2 bolts, it looks not like it's dense enough, so let's make it 7 bolts. Now that's a lot of lightning. Obviously, I don't need that many bolts and I don't need that much width. So let's just go with 3 bolts and a width of 33. Don't need to use the common color. And there's multiple different ways to target. I'm going to have to go over these separately. Down to the floor, up to the ceiling, right to the wall, and left to the wall. Those are beams that will fire straight out of the NPC. It'll go to the ground or to a wall, and then it will stop. These next ones, these will not stop when they hit a wall, a floor, or a ceiling. Towards player, stop, towards player, pass, and toward vector. Let's go with towards vector. With this one, you absolutely need to give it a vector x and a vector y. These are how it decides where the lightning bolts are going to go. Let me try 50 to the right and 0 up. And that's a very short bolt of lightning. So let's try 200. Yeah, it's still pretty short. But I don't want this to be that serious of an attack. Oh, and there's one more thing. Because the NPC is moving, the question is, do we want the spawn point to move with the NPC, and do we want the target point to move with the NPC? There's a lot of ways you can have fun with this. The way it works today is you can set it up so that if the spawn point moves with NPC is unchecked, this enemy will drop a lightning bolt in a particular area and the lightning bolt will just stay there. It won't move when the NPC moves. If, by contrast, I check this box, then this end of the lightning bolt will move, but this end will not. Maybe that's what you want, maybe it isn't. For now, I'm going to say that both the target, which would be this end of the lightning bolt, and the spawn point, which is this end of the lightning bolt, they will both move with the NPC. You can also choose an elemental effect. I will be going over elemental effects later. At the moment, they don't do anything yet, but I intend to have them do something as time goes on. And you can define your own elemental effects. I've gone with fire, water, storm, earth, nature, arcane, light, and dark. Those are elemental antipodes. Earth counters storm, water counters fire, arcane counters nature, dark counters light, and vice versa each time. I'm just going to go with storm as the elemental effect. Click OK, and there is a single bolt of lightning. You can edit it and change it so that, say, it deals more damage, or so that it has a narrower spectrum or something like that, so that it's just the cool colors. You can also cancel out of it and it won't affect that. So let's see, I want to add a second sub attack. I'd like there to be sort of like a spread of lightning bolts, but I'm going to choose some different colors for this. You can actually choose from you can actually change the colors that are set at each of these 5 points, and you can do it manually or you can do it through presets. For example, if I have white, then this red will fade to pink and then to white before it goes into green. I could change this to yellow, and that makes this part look really weird. I'm a little bit curious as to what it's going to look like now, but let's just have a look. Let's go with 3, ray width, I think it was 33 before. Toward vector, 200, negative 100. Okay, I guess it's kind of rainbowish now. You can pick whatever colors you want at each of these points. There's actually gray between yellow and blue here, figure that out. If you want it to be green in between, you pick cyan here. Anyways, there are also a bunch of pre-existing color gradients that you can select from. Rainbow is the default one, but you can also pick grayscale, where the lightning is going to be white, gray, or black. Flame and smoke starts with white here, then it goes to yellow, red, maroon, and finally black. Water and ice, I mean, that's white, cyan, blue, midnight blue, and black. Electric goes from yellow to white to cyan to magenta to purple. There's other stuff in here too, earth colors. Let's see. Dark magic is basically black, green, and magenta. Holy is, we start with white, fade to yellow, pink, magenta, and purple. Those are colors commonly associated with holiness, at least in video games. But below holy, we get to the just plain old color gradients here. And you don't just have to go all the way from white to black. You can narrow it down and just do some pinks up to the maroons here. Generally, I reserve these colors for lightning that's instantly deadly, so I don't want to use those. Orange and brown here is another one. I actually have tan and brown. So if you feel like it, you can actually have brown lightning bolts. I don't know why you would want brown lightning bolts, but you can do it. Let's see. I think I'm going to stick with the indigo gradient for this. Well, no, I want it to be something kind of happy-ish. So let's go with, I want it to be one of the warmer colors for up top here. So let's go with flame and smoke here. I'm going to start with bright yellow, or I should say very pale yellow, and go down to maroon. That pretty much covers all the warm colors because it's got orange in the middle here. Click OK. Oops, that has no element. So I'll set it to the storm element, and then I want a third sub-attack in this attack. And this one's going to have the cooler colors. So actually I think I'm going to leave this as is and go with that. Just keep it in rainbow and have it go from green to magenta. So give each of them the same lead time, about the same bolt count. Damage is 1, element is storm. Now that I think about it, I better make sure that both of these checkboxes are checked in all three of these. Oh, this one I wasn't bothering with the check. All right. Now let's preview the whole attack. What's going to happen is those 3 lightning bolts are going to spawn from Carbon Copier's eye. Oh, wait. Apparently that's not how it works. Let's see. Trigger condition. Let's go with periodic. Every 7 seconds, so 7,000 milliseconds. So let's preview the whole attack. And if this doesn't fire, I am going to be very embarrassed indeed. I think that more than 7 seconds has elapsed here. Leave it to me to find a bug while I'm in the middle of trying to demonstrate something. I'll fix this. Okay, and a few days later, I'm recording again. Now I have the ability to edit out these kinds of blunders, but I choose not to edit them out while I'm making these tutorial videos because I want to drive home the point that at the time I'm making these, I'm very much in pre-alpha mode here. Anyways, it turned out that this wasn't a bug. This was a feature that I had forgotten to code. I dove into the code to see, okay, why isn't it actually previewing all 3 of these attacks, or sorry, all 3 of these sub-attacks in the entire attack, and it turned out that I hadn't actually written the code that draws these lightning bolts in this mega preview, full attack preview. And as you can see, it's firing multiple different lightning bolts out of its eyes. And there's warm colors on the top bolt, all colors in the middle bolt, and cool colors on the bottom bolt. If I wanted to, I could include some fireballs as well. In fact, I think I'll do that. For most of these attacks, I'll just cancel out of this. For most of these attacks, I either have fireballs or I have lightning bolts, but I don't have both, but nothing is really preventing you from having both a fireball sub-attack and a lightning bolt sub-attack. And one of the beauties of having sub-attacks within attacks is that you can have multiple projectiles per attack. If you wanted to have just one projectile or just one lightning bolt in an attack, you can do that. But this allows you to do things like having volleys of attacks. In this case, I made it quite a bit more difficult by having two separate fireballs. One gets thrown at 12 pixels per frame. 0 is the vector there. The fireball should bounce, which means it'll be a bouncing fireball affected by gravity, etc. And then the next one I have is 9 pixels per frame, and because there are two fireballs that bounce out at the same time but have a certain distance between them, it makes it much more difficult to avoid the attack. I'll do more stuff on fireballs later. You know what? I don't need to wait. I don't need to do it later. I can do it now. That's one of the two attacks that I have. The other attack is Spread Burst. This is an attack that has 7 different fireballs in it. And in this case, the fireballs do not bounce. They go out at whatever vector you tell them to go out at, and they continue to go. Let's see, fireball aim. There's 3 different ways you can do fireball aim. Absolute means it'll always shoot to the right if you have a positive X vector here. It'll always shoot to the left if you have a negative one. The other ones are always shoot towards the player. That'll decide whether it goes left or right depending on where the player is. The Y vector here will not depend on where the player is, but the X vector will. Movement direction is the other one. If the NPC is moving to the right, then it'll shoot fireballs to the right. If the NPC is moving left, it'll shoot fireballs to the left, that kind of thing. Again, that only affects whether it's positive X or negative X. If you really wanted to, you could always have it fire in the opposite direction from how it's facing, or the opposite direction from the player, by assigning either toward player or movement direction, and then assigning a negative X vector here. Anyways, another thing to keep in mind with these fireball sub-attacks is you define where the spawn point is for this. Right now I've got it set up so that it's 25 pixels to the right and 0 up or down, directly centered on the NPC. But if I wanted to, I could make it way up high. I have this little flashing X that represents the spawn point. The X will not appear in the game, obviously, but you can set it up so that it'll spawn this fireball from wherever. If you want it to spawn, say, from the forehead here, let's see, I think that's about 40 to the right, and I'm making a guesstimate here. 20 up, nope, not quite. 30, close. Close enough. If I wanted to make it spawn this from the forehead, that would be where it would be. If I wanted to have like a double fireball attack where it shoots from here and from here at the same time, I'd have one sub-attack fire from here and another sub-attack fire from down here. You can control the damage amount, you can control the damage element. The elements don't do anything yet. That's something that I haven't yet done. I'm going to cancel out of this so that the changes don't stick. What I did with this is I have 7 different fireballs, all on the same NPC's single attack. And if I preview the entire attack, you'll see that it fires out a massive spread of fireballs, which are a little bit difficult to avoid. You know, one thing which I could do if I wanted to is create it so that it shoots a rainbow of these instead of just shooting individual ones. This is, I think, the 4th So I'll set it to shoot green fireballs. This one is, I think, the third, so I'll set it to shoot yellow fireballs. This one, let's see, that would be the fifth, so I'll set it to shoot blue fireballs. Blue fireballs are already in use today. Let's see, this would be the sixth, so I'll have it shoot purple fireballs. Those are also in use today by the purple enemies. I call them Blast Amethyst. Let's see, I think this one would be the second, so I'll have it shoot an orange fireball, which actually looks yellow at the head of it, but the trail is orange. This next one, it shoots straight up, well, not straight up, it's the highest one, so I'll keep it at red. And I think this last one is the bottom one. Simply by process of elimination, I'll give it a gray fireball. Okay, so let's preview the whole attack. Taste the rainbow! Unfortunately, this is the only projectile attack that I have at the moment. There's no custom graphics for projectile attacks. I know that I want to add that someday, but not today. If I cancel out of it, then all the changes that I've made will be reverted, and the fireballs will be all red. One thing that I like about these fireballs is that they have a trail behind them, and that trail makes the fireballs a little more visible. The trail is sort of chaotic a little bit. The individual puffs of smoke drift this way and that way slightly. It makes the fireballs just a little bit more visible. The continuous lightning bolts one, this is an attack that is triggered immediately upon entering the behavior. There's multiple different ways that these attacks can be triggered. Immediately upon entering behavior, randomly, periodically. There's another one which I will show you guys later. It's upon receiving a particular message. But these are done randomly. The attack itself has a trigger attached to it. You can also tell an object to switch to a behavior upon entering an attack. The trigger condition is this one's probably only going to be used under special circumstances where it's part of a boss fight or where switching to a behavior literally is the attack. Anyway, with random trigger condition, then every tick it's going to pick a random number. Every time it updates or every time it renders, it will pick a number. It'll pick a number between 1 and 75 in this case, and if the number is 3 or less, then it will fire the attack. A cooldown allows you to say this attack can only be done once every second or once every 2 seconds or something like that. Here I don't have a cooldown. That means if 3 comes up on one roll of the dice and 1 comes up on the next one, it'll do the same attack twice in a row. And that's okay. For spread burst, I also don't have a cooldown attached to it. That's okay. But I do it way less frequently. Instead of picking a number between 1 and 75, it's a number between 1 and 125. So, back to the periodic lightning. This one I have periodically. It goes once every 7 seconds. Fires off those 3 bolts of lightning. Not much more to say there. Let's have a look at how this looks inside the game. I have, I forgot to preload the game. But I do have the ability to pause these recordings, which is good. Quartzy Cloud is the name of a boss that I'll be showing later in this video, which will have much more varied attacks. Okay, finally it's loaded. I have this test hurt zone over here on the left. That's probably not going to be in the next version of the game. And these 2 and 3 objects here, those are actually doors. Test doors which I've created that take me straight to the rooms where these exist. I don't have to go through the whole first floor of the factory. Whoa! As you can see, this is turning into a bullet hell game. Wow! And as you can see, it is firing off those lightning bolts every 7 seconds. And it is randomly firing off. Ah! Okay, that's it. You're dying. It is randomly firing off those attacks. And you do enough damage to it, which takes a surprisingly short amount of time once you have this power up, then it will burst into those gemstones and you can collect those. And now you've still got this. So I guess that's it for that demonstration of the some of the basics. I will be getting into a lot more detailed stuff and a lot more of the things that you can do with these attacks in my next video.